It's the Monday News Jump on the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast. Happy to have you with us. Normally, I fly solo on Mondays, but I have a very special guest to talk about how Bengals fans can get involved on Sundays in Cincinnati. I've got Bengal Jim Foster, host of Sunday Night Football with Bengal Jim and Friends, and one of the best advocates, if not the best advocate, fan advocates for the Cincinnati Bengals. Jim, how you doing, buddy?
Man, great, man. Good to see you, Anthony.
You too. For those who do not know, and if you have not watched his show, Jim, every single week on Sunday nights, hosts a show. It's through his YouTube channel. It's on Facebook, and it's downloadable. You can find it. It's a great, great show. He and a couple of his co-hosts do an awesome job with it. And every week, it seems like the guests keep getting better and better. This week, he had CJ Uzama. I think the week prior was it Fulcher the week prior, or was he 2 weeks ago?
It was Fulcher. Then we had prior to that we had it was Dan Horde. Then Fulcher the week.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you guys do great work, and you've been great to me. For those who do not know, I met Jim. I knew about him, but I met Jim in person last year at the Seattle game. We both went up there. And Jim had his loyal following with him. A lot of people gathering around him, and as usual, generous guy, giving out koozies and all kinds of things, and being the great fan that he is. So I've endeared myself to him because he is such a great guy and has done a lot for me and this show. But Jim, just quickly, if you can, I know a lot of people who are watching. We're going to get to news, by the way. We're going to get to news, and Jim's going to help me out with that as well. We're going to get to news. We're going to about the Bengals and the NFL and everything like we usually do to start the week. But Jim, if you could, a little background on yourself, your fandom, what you have been doing, and then of course we'll start there, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you will be doing this year, given the different landscape going on with football.
Absolutely. Just, again, no different story than any other diehard fan out there. Been a fan since I was 10 years old, 1981. It tells you how old I am if you guys can do the math quickly on that. Diehard fan. Haven't missed a game home game since 1992. Been in 24 different NFL stadiums, and this year was hoping to make it to a couple more, but the COVID doesn't look like that's going to happen. But now we're really excited, Anthony, with there's going to be all kinds of virtual things going on game days probably throughout the year, right? And there's going to be some really good stuff virtually that people are doing as well. But we were trying to figure out a safe environment. How do we keep the tailgate going, but make it can't be the same. It can't be the same thing we've been doing with our tailgates all these years since 1993. What can we do differently, but still maintain the social spacing and everything the CDC is requiring here? So we have secured a private parking lot in the shadows of Paul Brown Stadium that we're going to be doing the first ever drive-in tailgate here in Cincinnati. There's limited spots. In order to make sure we have that spacing correct, we cannot, load up that lot. So there's very limited spots available. And we're going to open that lot up at 11 o'clock. And at 4 o'clock, the game's going to be on. And we're going to stay in the lot to watch the game. We have a huge, giant Jumbotron LED, very clear, that you can watch in the daytime with no glare. We're going to stay in a lot and watch the game together. So we're going to change the tailgate up a little bit, Anthony, because we're not going to do our normal food lines with buffets and all that stuff. No Bloody Mary bar, no margarita bars to kind of keep people in their own spots, right? So we do have a food truck that's going to be in the lot with us that day. We have the porta potties scheduled. We've got everybody's going to have their space that they're going to be able to tailgate in. If they happen to leave that space to go get food from the food truck or go to the restroom, we're going to ask that people wear a mask outside of that. We're taking temperatures as people are coming in, and they can only enter in a vehicle. It's a drive-in, so we're not taking any walk-ups. If we opened up the walk-ups, it would be a total mess as far as the number of people. So we've got it kind of gated off, and we will be it'll be a drive-in only at the end of the day. So we're pretty excited about it, Anthony. This is something we've worked for months on to be able to do this and do it right. And we feel pretty confident about it. We just opened it up last night for people to secure their parking spots in the drive-in tailgate. And I think we've already sold like 25 spots. And there's not many more spots available. So that's kind of where we're at with it, Anthony. We are making it. There's going to be some other announcements, some other people doing some major virtual tailgates, and we're going to kind of tie that into ours as well. We're going to do the show live that afternoon from the parking lot as well. And we have tailgates from Denmark, Germany, Mexico, Canada, West Coast, and East Coast that we're going to kind of pipe into the show that day as well. Ken Anderson is going to kick off our tailgate virtually for us, and we're going to tie all those folks in. There's going to be some other announcements with other folks doing some major virtual tailgates that we'll tie into as well. But long-winded answer, Anthony, but I mean, we're pretty excited about it.
No, it's, I wanted to give you whatever little platform I have to promote this to Bengals fans, because I think it's important. Number one, for those, I know a lot of Bengals fans know who you are, Jim, based on your Twitter following and what you've done in the past and throwing these great tailgate parties and whatnot. I've seen pictures of some. Unfortunately, given where I live, I haven't been able to attend these, except for when we kind of met in Seattle. We kind of had our own version of a tailgate there. But I wanted to promote this, number one, because fans are looking for things to do to celebrate this Bengals team, because it is a new, exciting, new look Bengals team. They want to do things, but as we all know, we also want to be safe. We want to be cautious. We want to make sure that that things are done in the right way, I guess, in accordance to health codes and whatnot. So, I just wanted to make sure that our fans, I know there's a lot of crossover between our show's listeners and your listeners anyway, but I really want to pump this up. And the other thing, I think you maybe mentioned it, but maybe not. I think the cost for this is going to charitable causes as well, correct?
Yeah. So Kenny, that money, it is $35 for a spot. There's a portion of that going to the Ken Anderson Alliance as a fundraiser. And we're also going to be doing other things throughout the tailgate that day to kind of get our goal that day is to raise $1,000 for the Ken Anderson Alliance. So a portion of that will be parking. There's a portion of that is going to pay for our expenses for the porta potties and the landscaping work we're getting done this week. And James and Craig and Bruce and these guys are coming down tomorrow afternoon. So we kind of clean it up and kind of spray paint the lines the way we want the spacing to be. So there's some cost involved by us. We're not making a dime out of any of this. There's also that private lot owner who needs to get his cut out of that as well. But there'll be a portion of that going to the Ken Anderson Alliance. So we're going to be focusing that day like we do every opening day for Ken Anderson's foundation.
Well, look, we wanted to bring you on to promote this, like I said, but also the timing of it. I mean, we're getting close to the regular season. I know you're finalizing these details. And by the way, the amount of detail and work that you were putting into this, from porta potties and all kinds of different stuff. It's stuff that I probably would, I'd probably mess up on something if I was planning this myself. But the amount of detail and work you have put in on this is amazing. And it's all about the Bengals, and it's all about the Bengals fans, which it always seems to be with you. You're a great advocate for the team and for the fan base. And I just wanted to let our listeners know before we get to more news, and we'll remind them at the end as well. But I wanted to let folks know who are in the greater Cincinnati area that usually go to games and tailgate, maybe have been to past events that Jim has thrown as a fan before games. I wanted to give fans notification that there is going to be something that they can partake in, and still a really high class, high end, great event that, like you said, Jim, the proceeds go, a portion of them at least, go to charitable causes, which for me, that's right up my wheelhouse. I think that's a really cool thing. If you can spend a little money, have a little fun, and it goes to a great cause, I don't, there's not much better. Can't get much better than that in my book. So I applaud you. Is there a website, or are people just kind of following you on your Twitter and Facebook to kind of get the details on that, or how can we push that out?
Yeah. So really, if you want to lock yourself up a spot, we do expect it to probably sell out by the end of the week here, if not sooner. But if anybody's interested, after our show today, it's actually on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram accounts right now, how to lock that up. You can do it, you're just you're clicking a link to be able to secure your spot. at the end of the day and paying in advance, and you'll be able to show up with a ticket on your phone in order to get in. So I'll actually wind up pinning that to the top of our social media pages here after the show. But it was posted last night after our show last night, so it is on our social media platforms today. But it's going to be pinned to the top of our social media after the show today with you.
Okay, well, we'll push that out for you definitely, and we wanted to make sure that folks knew what was going on and at least get wind of this opportunity and hear about the cool things that you are doing, even in light of everything else that we've had to kind of tap dance around, given the landscape of everything going on around here. If you do go to Bengal Jim's tailgate, the drive-in tailgate experience. It sounds like they're going to be doing a show. I've mentioned that a combination of myself, my usual co-host John Sheeran, and Matt Minnick will be doing some form of a pregame show as well. We do have a sponsor for that. So maybe if you're hanging out with Jim and company, you can have us on in the background maybe, and then Jim takes the air and they can chat as well before the game. So you get Bengals coverage from us and Jim, as well as a good time in person with Jim through the safety of everything that they've built with this drive-in tailgate experience.
And the other thing there too, Anthony, we're just doing a very short, brief segment, so we'll probably pipe it in your show on a jumbotron that day for you.
Okay. Well, again, very, very cool idea. And when I heard it, I immediately had to get you on and get the word out to people. So
thank you.
I appreciate what you're doing. And unfortunately, where I live, I can't partake. Otherwise I would. But, maybe if there's something I can do to donate, or, if there's any help you need that we can provide, I'd love to do that. We can talk behind the scenes on that. If there's something you need that I can maybe help with, I'd love to do that.
You guys are always great. First class organization, Anthony. We appreciate it.
Thanks. Well, let's get to some news, Jim. I do want to get your take on some of these things before we get on out of here. And again, I'm Anthony Cosenza, joined by special guest Jim Foster, telling us about his drive-in tailgate experience that he'll be hosting in the downtown Cincinnati area on game days. And we'll remind you again before we get on out of here. Before we do get to the news too, we do have an announcement. Unfortunately, I got to keep it under wraps for like another 24-ish hours, but we do have an interview that is dropping with someone associated with the Bengals. That's about all I can tell you, because the how he came to us, we can't tell you who it is yet because of the project he's involved with, but that will be dropping tomorrow, and we will let you know, and that'll be out on all of our channels as well. But Jim, the big news here this week, the Bengals obviously yesterday partook in a inter-squad scrimmage, basically their second one. It's based on what 2020 has brought us. It's basically the version of the dress rehearsal, right? Because there's no preseason games. I guess your kind of thoughts. I know you weren't there in person. Most of us were not. And we had to kind of listen to it on the radio and hearsay afterwards. Sounds like there was a lot of good from Joe Burrow, a couple of hiccups. Defense ended up winning the scrimmage. Any kind of thoughts on your end based on what you saw, heard so far on what took place on Sunday in the scrimmage?
Yeah, I was first of all excited to hear Lapp and Horde on the radio actually calling a game. Piped in crowd noise was fun, and to hear Dave getting all fired up in a scrimmage on the radio was awesome. It was interesting. I don't think there was anything that totally surprised or shocked me. It was Joe Burrow starting the scrimmage out 0-3. And people are already on Twitter and social media, oh my God, what's going on? Then he immediately hit like 9 out of his next 10, threw a couple touchdown passes. It was cool to see Mike Thomas get involved in the offense. Tyler Boyd, which I think the chemistry there is going to be a lot of fun.
Right.
Uzama. This is fun. I wish, I saw a couple plays today on social media, different passes that he threw. But, this is all there was a lot of starters not playing, Anthony, yesterday, right? So, without AJ and Joe Mixon, and on defense, so you didn't have Dunlop, Lawson. There was a few other guys missing there as well. So, again, the orange and black scrimmage every single year, there's not a lot you learn out of it at the end of the day. It is a scrimmage, but for them to be doing that yesterday without the referees was interesting as well.
A lot, yeah. It's basically kind of the maximum of what they're able to do this preseason. I mean, unfortunately, with everything going on, that's the reality of it. You mentioned these are the other news pieces I wanted to get to out of that scrimmage. You mentioned AJ Green, Joe Mixon, among many other star players not suiting up. Joe Mixon has been listed as a day-to-day. There's been some migraine issues going on, maybe another minor injury that he's dealing with. Some people wonder if the contract situation is to play a part in that. I don't believe so personally, but who knows? Only Joe and the organization truly know if that is what's happening there. There hasn't been open dialogue about, him sitting out because of that. It's been more of the migraine and minor injury issue. And then of course, AJ Green nursing the hamstring injury. He didn't play yesterday, but as you said, Jim, the chemistry between Joe Burrow and Tyler Boyd looks incredible. Joe Burrow came out, there was a quote, I believe it was after the game on Sunday, kind of said, basically expect Tyler Boyd to have a big year. We're clicking really well at this point. And, I think that's kind of based on his connection with Justin Jefferson and how LSU moved Justin Jefferson around inside and outside. The Bengals do the same with Tyler Boyd. So, I think there's a comfort level there, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even think to make that connection, but you're exactly right. It's a great comparison.
So the offense, I guess, quote unquote, lost the scrimmage based on how they keep score and everything. But there were some takeaways there from scrimmage. Like I said, a lot of the stars were not in the game, but Joe Burrow was there. Another thing Joe Burrow noted is, Jim, that I found interesting. He's actually been lobbying to take on some actual contact. He's been lobbying to the coaches to say, hey, I want to take a hit or two before week one because I'm a little worried of what that's going to be like not being hit for so long, not getting used to kind of that play, that speed. I found that to be a really interesting facet to the offseason as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many quarterbacks in the NFL actually said that. We know Joe Burrow did. But, I mean, you got to figure, the guy's been playing ball since probably Pee-wee football in high school, and he's taken a lot of hits before the season starts. This will be the first time in his football playing career, I assume, that he's not going to take a legitimate hit until opening day, and hopefully opening day he doesn't take a hit. But anyway, at the end of the day, it's got to feel different for these guys. It's just going to be an interesting opening day to watch for sure.
Yeah, it'll be different. It'll be different. There's no doubt about that. But the Bengals players and Joe Burrow are also trying to make things as realistic as possible right now through the rest of the preseason. I found this one to be interesting too, Jim. The fact that Auden Tate worked out with NFL star and former Raven Anquan Boldin. This post is on cincyjungle.com. Went up on Monday morning. Now, if you look at it, Auden Tate and Anquan Boldin, not similarly built players. Auden Tate has probably about a half a foot of height on Anquan Boldin. But the across the middle, the tough catches, the red zone stuff, that kind of rings true. Anquan Boldin obviously had a stellar NFL career, and you see this a lot, Jim. I remember back a handful of years ago, AJ Green would work out with Calvin Johnson and other star guys. So I don't see that there's anything wrong with this. I just found it to be very interesting, and I wonder how much this will translate for Auden Tate's game this year, who by all accounts has been having a good training camp.
Yeah, I've been able to watch 2 or 3 training camp sessions, and I went down 2 Fridays ago to watch their first scrimmage. And I'll tell you what, Auden Tate was absolutely amazing, Anthony. He was making catch after contested catch after contested catch, great routes. Joe Burrow knows where to put the ball when he's going to be 3 to 5 inches taller than most of the DBs that are guarding. I have no problem with him working out with with Anquan Boldin. At the end of the day, this guy's legit. Now it's going to be interesting to see, is he going to be one of the top 3 receivers on the staff? Probably not. But our receiving core is one of the strengths of this team, and Auden Tate's a special player, and this is going to be a big breakout year for him, in my opinion.
They may need it because, like we said, AJ Green nursing that hamstring injury. It sounds like he's likely to play in the opener, and I think they're being precautionary based on what happened last year with him. So maybe they're just taking it a little easy on him. But, there still is, I think, among the fan base, a little bit of hesitancy in terms of relying super heavily on AJ Green right away throughout an entire season. That's where a guy like Tate also, provides value. And then, we didn't mention his name, John Ross, another guy that I don't believe he suited up for the scrimmage either last night. And, he's been dealing with a lot of different things. And thankfully the issue with his son and the mother of his son being ill with COVID-19, thankfully that has subsided and he's back with the team. But, there's injury issues there. So, I mean, when you see stuff, when you hear things about Tyler Boyd looking great, Auden Tate working out with Anquan Bolden, with some of these other receivers that seem to be a big part of the Bengals plan this year, when they're not in the mix in terms of practicing, these types of things make you feel at least a little bit more at ease.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, so to your point, right? So the depth is going to be probably tested at some point, if not early in the season, when you've got AJ, let's be honest, one of the best receivers in the NFL. We can stay healthy. The last couple of years have been tough for him to stay on the field. So AJ can stay on the field, and John Ross' issue isn't, I know he has the injury bug a little bit here and there, but I think it's more for Ross is between the ears, right? Confidence issues, and as an athlete, a stud athlete that he is, I hope he gets it right between the ears, because AJ is going to need to stay in that field, and we need Ross as well. I'm excited about the wide receiving core for sure, and with the depth there, and every team's going to need depth at some point during the season at wide receiver, and we're positioned pretty well there for sure.
Hopefully that's the case. The Bengals seem to also, at least Dave Lapham shares this opinion with. We heard this a while ago from Jim Turner that Hakeem Adeniji, the rookie offensive lineman that the Bengals got in the 6th round, Jim Turner, upon drafting him, said that he thought he was a day 2 talent that fell to them late in day 3. And Dave Lapham also thinks that this kid is a steal. Now, this isn't a guy that's going to crack the starting lineup right away, Jim, I don't think, but a guy that provides guard tackle versatility, which we knew about. You think about an offensive lineman in the 6th round and you say, well, maybe he's a guy who's kind of a fringe backup that hangs with the team for a while. This doesn't seem to be the chatter around this kid. They seem to like him. Probably not poised for a big role again this year, but maybe a year or two down the road as he develops. Had a lot of starts in college for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when they drafted him, I wasn't upset with the draft pick because I know a little bit about the kid. My initial thought was practice squad kid, likely, but you're right. I mean, you hear more and more stuff. To hear Dave Lapham talk about his footwork and all the things that Dave Lapham has been talking about this past week about him, maybe this kid develops sooner than later, because to your point, he's not a starter this year. Maybe add some depth somewhere on that line, but he's going to have to show that versatility, because there's going to be injuries. Every NFL team is going to be dealing with injuries on that offensive line. So hopefully he can contribute sooner than later. But my initial thought when they drafted him was maybe a practice squad kid, but man, maybe he's doing way better than I'm thinking.
Yeah, there's a lot of chatter around this kid. Again, I think it's probably something that's earmarked for a year or two away in terms of a big role for him. But it's good to hear that a guy that was kind of a late round pick is looking to be a diamond in the rough. We're going to be here for a few more minutes. I'm talking with Jim Foster, the fan advocate extraordinaire, Jim Foster, who is putting on a drive-in tailgate experience. He usually puts on the big tailgate experience around the stadium parking lots and whatnot for Bengals fans. And unfortunately, just given what everybody's dealing with this year, that's not a possibility. But Jim has created a very, very cool experience for folks to partake in. There's a small cost to it. That cost in part goes to charity. And there will be, I think, giveaways and other experiences to have. So very cool thing. We're going to be here for a couple more minutes talking more Bengals news and NFL news. I'm transitioning a little bit. It's going to be Bengals news, but also kind of NFL news, Jim. The Bengals take on the Chargers in week 1, but one of the Chargers' best players doesn't seem to be ready. It sounds like he will not be ready to play, and that is Derwin James, the very versatile defensive back. It sounds like he's got a meniscus injury and will not be able to play. That's a guy, I think, kind of like a Minka Fitzpatrick or maybe even a Jalen Ramsey. You move him around, even a Polamalu. You can move him around a lot and really potentially trick a young quarterback. He's an athletic guy. So this could be, it sounds like he's not going to be there for week 1. He's got a meniscus injury. So this could be a big relief for the Bengals in week 1.
Yeah, it's interesting. The first I heard that report, it sounded like he would be ready for opening day. And the more the reports started coming out, he's not going to be their opening day for them. So, again, don't wish any harm on any guy. I hope the guy comes back 100%. Right. He's just not for the Bengals game. But man, I tell you, that Chargers defense is pretty damn good, Anthony. Their defensive line solid. They're pretty good. So Derwin not being there is going to help the team for sure. But man, I tell you what, they got weapons, defensive studs up and down the line up there on the defensive side of the ball still.
Little scary that they can get after the quarterback pretty well.
Right.
And that just Derwin James not being back there, that's just a very high-end playmaker that won't be able to potentially take advantage of pressure being built up front. So, good news in the way for the Bengals. Obviously, we hope a speedy recovery in general to Derwin James. Just, hey, take the week off, buddy. It'll help us all out. But some interesting news as it goes to week 1 and the Bengals facing the Chargers. Another one, Jim, that I thought was interesting, and there's a little bit of chatter with him maybe being connected to the Bengals. I see that as being super far-fetched at this point, but now potential connection of him with the Browns, which is very interesting. Leonard Fournette was waived on Monday, former top, what was he, number 4 overall pick? Yeah, Jaguars waive him. And by the way, if you have any gripes about the Bengals draft picks or whatever they're doing or not doing, go check out the Jaguars draft picks in this past decade and their top 10 picks. It is a freaking mess what they've done and where these guys have gone and who's not playing anymore. But Jim, Leonard Fournette waived by the Jaguars. Some chatter about him being connected to the Browns, which is interesting with Chubb and Kareem Hunt there. But thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's funny. Real quick on Jacksonville, I think I was reading today that they just were in an AFC Championship game in 2018 with the Patriots, right? I think there's only 12 players left on that team, that roster today, just 2 years later. Just amazes me because that was a damn good team. But Fournette, if you remember the Bengals played down in Jacksonville last, he didn't play that game either. We kind of had some nicks and bruises. At the end of the day, it does shock me that he's being waived. Makes me think, are there more issues, maybe off the field, troublemaking type things that he might be involved in? I don't know. I can't imagine the Bengals signing him, Anthony, at all. And that would surprise me at the end of the day. The Cleveland, they seem to be deeper and have a little bit more depth at running back than most teams. So, again, that'd be interesting. I just don't see Cincinnati entertaining Fournette coming here. I mean, you got Gio, you got obviously Mixon and Gio and some of these other guys. I think, I'm not going to, I feel pretty good about our running back position right now if everybody stays healthy, obviously.
Right. I think it would be more if there's just nothing being made in terms of headway with a Mixon contract. Exactly. That would be the only thing that would make sense to me. But for the most part, I mean, there's maybe some questions on work ethic with Fournette. There's other. I remember him in college. He was an absolute freak. And if you remember, Jim, I think a portion of the way through the year he got hurt, and to not affect his draft stock, I think some reports, if I remember correctly, this was years ago now, but there were some reports that maybe, hey, he could come back, but he didn't come back as soon as maybe they thought, or didn't play the rest of the year because he was hurt and he didn't want to hurt his draft stock. You can't blame a kid for that, especially if he's staring at millions of dollars on one way. But when you look at it now, a couple of years down the road, and those work ethic questions have popped up, you kind of look at that example and you go, well, was there smoke with that fire?
Yeah, I've heard all of those, and that's kind of where I'm at. But at the end of the day, I think the Bengals get their deal done with Mixon, but I think Fournette would cost more than Mixon at the end of the day. And that's one of the other reasons, too. I don't see that happening at the end of the day. If they're going to overpay for a running back, it's going to be who they know, not somebody coming in like Fournette, in my opinion. They might sign him later today. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. Alvin Kamara, a guy who was drafted in the same second round as Joe Mixon, he is looking at potentially holding out with the Saints, a little more quietly holding out with the Saints, potentially to get a new deal. He has been an uber productive running back, especially as a pass catcher. A little bit different mold than Joe Mixon, but a part of a very good running back class that came out of that draft. So Alvin Kamara, something kind of to monitor just based on the Mixon situation as well. The other piece, Jim, before we get on out of here, unless there's any other news bits that you would like to get to, but there's now talk of Riley Reif. I think he's played some guard and tackle. He started with the Lions, moved over to the Vikings, got paid pretty heavily there. They have said they wanted him to take a pay cut. He is not willing to do that apparently, and is telling his teammates he is prepared to be released by the team. Of course, that's another automatic. Oh, what about right tackle for the Bengals? Your thoughts on Reif and that situation?
Man, I wish I knew the details, but what I can tell you, what I do know, again, I know everybody hates Bobby Hart, right? But he hasn't looked that bad this preseason, right? This during training camp. I've been kind of keeping an eye on that. If you look at his Pro Football Focus grade last year, Anthony, it really wasn't much better than Bobby Hart at the end of the day. Again, if he helps us, absolutely. I don't feel confident that he really is a huge upgrade at right tackle, in my opinion. But
you're right about the PFF scores. That does tell a certain story that is a little bit shocking. I think a lot of people would, when they hear that, you would say Riley Reif, former first round pick, obviously he's going to outshine Bobby Hart in that regard, and he is not. At least not as of last year. And the other thing, Reif is 31 years old, going to be 32 in the season. Bobby Hart's in his mid-20s. So, that's something to think about. I think also Reif has had maybe a couple of I'll look at his stats here, maybe a couple of injuries. Now he's been pretty durable, missed 3 games in 2018 and a game last year, a couple games here and there throughout his career. So he actually has been pretty durable, as has Bobby Hart. So, it's probably not necessarily a lateral move. It might be a little bit of a step up, but you're also increasing age, potentially price tag, all kinds of things. And
absolutely.
Yeah, so interesting stuff, though. Did I miss anything that maybe we should talk about before we get on out of here, Jim?
One thing, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those damn linebackers, brother. I love them. I love the off-season moves. It was one of the things, other than watching Joe Burrow in training camp off the bridge this year so far, is the thing that stuck out to me is these linebackers are fast, brother. Let me tell you, they can move. Now, there were times in the practice they were moving fast, maybe not in the right spot in the right direction, but dude, I'm excited about these linebackers, Anthony. I'm the guys they got in free agency, and then the guys they picked up in the draft. Man, I tell you what, it's the most athletic group of linebackers I have seen on this Bengals team in a long time.
That's good to hear. Your observations of Marcus Bailey, the seventh round pick, a guy a lot of folks think is a big steal, and a guy that we actually had him on our program, was a very, very entertaining young man, and seems to be a guy that, if healthy, should be able to contribute on this defense. How has he been looking in the early stages of camp, and in things that you have been to in person from your bird's eye bridge view?
Yeah, again, from the bridge.
Right.
I can't tell what he's doing right or wrong sometimes, where I'm at and what they're trying to accomplish with the plays they're running. He ran a lot of snaps with first team defense as well. But like you said, Anthony, I think, again, this guy could be one of the bigger steals for the Bengals. There could be multiple steals in the draft this year. But this kid in college, when he was healthy, he was one of the best linebackers in college football. So if this kid can stay healthy with us, we've got us a player right there. Again, a lot of young guys at that linebacker spot. But I'm pretty excited about it, man. In this division, especially with Baltimore, to be able to cover the tight ends and be able to tackle these quarterbacks. Everybody remembers the play last year when Lamar shook every one of our linebacking core and went for the touchdown. I can't imagine it happening at all like that this year with the athleticism that we have back there now. So pretty excited about it. Again, a young core. There's going to be some mistakes, but I'm really pumped about that group right there for sure.
I'm glad you brought that up for a number of reasons. I'm sharing a picture of the linebacker group there that they're paying a little homage to Chadwick Boseman, who unfortunately passed away. The actor who played Black Panther, Jackie Robinson in the 42 movie, all kinds of other, he was in Draft Day. So, a very, very sad situation with the actor passing away, and some of these linebackers, Akeem Davis-Gaither, Marcus Bailey, and others kind of giving a little homage at the scrimmage yesterday. The other thing, Jim, that we should have probably kicked off with it, but there was just so much kind of to get to that we focused on the scrimmage and everything. What the Bengals in their ownership group did, I believe it was on Saturday, with the statement they put out on social justice issues and other things kind of plaguing the nation right now. They went to the Underground Railroad Museum in downtown Cincinnati. Trey Hopkins read a statement. Joe Burrow read a statement. We're going to talk a little bit more about that on our Wednesday show when we do a deeper dive on things. But I thought that was a very, very powerful statement by the team. And Jim, it got lost in the shuffle a little bit, but when you saw the transition from Trey Hopkins to Joe Burrow, did you see who was behind him? Right there was Mike Brown in the middle.
You used the best word to describe what we saw here in Cincinnati this week. When you had that short walk across the Banks area from Paul Brown Stadium over to the Freedom Center, in that walk over, you could see Mike Brown, Katie Blackburn, Joe Burrow, all these guys, and it was coaches, players, and ownership made that trek together. It was a very powerful statement, in my opinion, and to hear Joe Burrow come out and say, look, this is not a political discussion, what we're doing right now, Anthony, but this is not an issue of politics, but the fight for equality, I think is what Joe said, something to that effect. I thought it was a powerful statement for a rookie quarterback to get up and do that, and do it confidently, and was very comfortable making that comment. It was powerful, buddy. We talked about it a little bit. Dave Lapham talked about in 1975 when it was him and Dan were talking about on their podcast that him and pizza forgets the offense. There's an offensive lineman, Vern Holland, in the mid 70s, very good offensive lineman. And him and Dave got to be really close friends. Black left tackle, Dave Lapham, white offensive lineman, right? Vern invites Dave to his birthday party. Dave goes. Dave's the only white guy there, right? And he was like, look, it was just like being with my family. We were talking about friends. We were talking about family. We were talking what happened that day. You really don't know. We can sit here and say whatever we want, but we really don't know until we're in somebody else's shoes and what they experience. We just don't know. We can say and think and have opinions on it, but it was when Darren Simmons made the comment yesterday or day before yesterday about this is the closest knit team that he has seen this early in the season in training camp than he has seen forever, and he's been with the Bengals for a very long time. I love it, man. It was just a powerful statement, and it just tells you how close this team is.
Yeah, and I think that those two guys who spoke, couple episodes ago, John and I were saying who are potential captain candidates for this team. Who's going to wear the C's on their jerseys. I think that Hopkins and Burrow, you can pretty much count on the fact that those C's will be donned on their jersey based on what we saw this weekend. And it's really great to see Trey Hopkins, a guy who has kind of been a little bit behind the scenes in terms of a team media personality, quote unquote, really step up in this important time and talk about some things. If you haven't seen it yet, go to Bengals.com to see. I think on their YouTube channel and others, there's like a full 15 or 20 minute statement or kind of chat that Trey Hopkins had with the media about some of this stuff. And then there's about a minute long video of the team in front of the Underground Railroad Freedom Center.
And I think it was neat, Anthony. I think, very well spoken, him and Joe both. I mean, it was very cool to hear. It's the most I've heard Trey speak at any one time, right? But he went to the team, and the team's one giving him things that he put together and shared in that speech that he did. So it gave me goosebumps watching. I thought it was a very cool statement.
Agreed. And, I know the Bengals caught a bit of flack from their fan base and some from, why are you staying quiet? Why aren't you doing that? I put out a tweet, and I'll talk more about this probably on our Wednesday show. But, I put out a tweet saying, the Brown family are very deliberate and calculated people. And I don't mean calculated in a negative way. I mean it in a positive way. They are thoughtful people. They don't knee jerk reaction to a lot of different things. And I know there's kind of some stories out there that, have kind of brought some criticism, but, they deliberately listen to their players of late. Their players had a lot of things to say to them, and they made this powerful statement at the Underground Railroad Freedom Center in downtown Cincinnati on Jackie Robinson weekend that was being honored in the MLB. And that says a lot. They're far from a perfect franchise, Jim. I think you and I can agree with that. We both love this franchise, but I think some people that were jumping on their backs early about not getting on this issue a little earlier. I think when you see what they did Saturday, hopefully you can kind of say, well, they took the time for a reason.
Yeah. And again, I think you hit it right on the nose, Anthony. Again, following this organization internally here for a long, long time, they never make quick snap decisions. It's going to be thought through. It's going to be discussed, and there'll be a lot of people involved in that decision and what's going to be addressed. And they don't make snap decisions on anything. It just, the other thing that I learned that I didn't even think about, like a lot of these players didn't know the history of Paul Brown. And during this conversation that they had this past week and a half, they got to understand the history of the Brown family and integration in football. I mean, Paul Brown in Cleveland, and even when he came to the Bengals in '68, when he started the Bengals, he's the one that integrated, started that whole process. Mary Motley up in Cleveland, and even in '68 when he came to Cincinnati, there were black players that are not being picked up by certain teams because they felt they had enough black players on their team. Wasn't Paul Brown, Mike Brown's dad. He would, if you could play, you were playing. It didn't matter what color you were. And I think the Brown family earned a lot of respect from the team as a whole, because I think they learned something they didn't know going into this whole discussion. I thought that was a really cool thing, that an ancillary effect that I didn't know, that they weren't aware.
That's really neat. I didn't know about the players getting kind of educated in that respect in terms of the history of the team and Paul Brown. And if we're running out of time here, but if you want to go find out a bit more about Paul Brown's effect in this regard, go research some articles on interviews with Jim Brown on Paul Brown and this integration aspect. And the Brown family aren't they're not the Dan Snyders or others that say, look at me, look what we're doing, look at me. But they just kind of do their thing. And sometimes it's not the right thing, but a lot of times it is. And Paul Brown, there's a very poignant quote by Jim Brown talking about integration and how Paul Brown approached that. I would recommend that Bengals fans go research and read about that. It's pretty interesting, but good on the Bengals for what they showed us this weekend. But Jim, one more time before we get out of here, I know you've got a couple of different social media platforms. People can find out information on your drive-in tailgate. One last little plug for you to get that out to the fans, if you would.
Yeah, again, we've got limited spots for the drive-in tailgate here in Cincinnati. Private parking lot in the shadows of Paul Brown Stadium. If you want a spot, go to any of our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and or Instagram, and you can click and reserve your spot for opening day here in Cincinnati.
That's awesome. So I urge Bengals fans, if whether you or not you have been to a past tailgate that Jim has thrown on, I understand they are quite the party. So whether or not you have, go get your spot. By the way, one other thing, Jim, it's like almost like, hey, by the way, the Bengals are also doing the cardboard cutout thing for fans in the stadium. $75. That's another really cool thing that I guess that's also going to charity. You have the option of getting the cut out back after the season. Are you doing one for you? Are you
funny? So my kids came up to me yesterday during the day, and we took all the kids in my wife's picture, and we did them. We did them.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's fun. One of my kids is holding our dog, and so we wound up doing it. And it's really cool because you could pick different charities that you wanted that money to go to. The Free Store Food Bank. There was the National Freedom Center. There was a bunch of different things that you could select where that money was going to be donated to. Really cool thing. And I think they're filling up the south and north end zones with these cutouts. So at the end of the day, if I can't be at a game, if I'm going to miss a home game physically, I will be there some way, shape, or form. So
yeah, I figured we'd see you.
Yeah, I would tell people to go on the Bengals website. They've been the website and their social media platforms. They did a really good job pushing it, and they make it very easy for you to do this too. So take advantage of it. It'll be a lot of fun.
I'm thinking of doing it myself. By the way, you have to do it by, I think, Tuesday, September 1st to get it in. So I think I'm going to do it myself. So if any other fans are interested, check out that. Check out Bengal Jim's drive-in tailgate experience. Jim, thanks for coming on and for the time, man. I said 25 minutes or whatever, but we got chatting, and it's been a great episode. Seeing a lot of comments about people enjoying this episode in particular that you joined me. I'm thankful for it. If you haven't yet, if you're watching our show and for some reason you do not watch Bengal Jim Sunday Night Football with him, James, and Jamie, and all kinds of great Bengals guests. By the way, tell those two guys hello for me as well, Jim. Go check that out. It's streamed on Facebook and YouTube, much like our show is, same kind of way. It's on Sunday evenings. They've got great guests, and of course, Jim's got this drive-in tailgate experience that he wants you to be a part of. We're already seeing Jason Stoling saying, "Already reserved my spot" in our live chat, Jim. So,
well, Anthony, I want to before I get out of here, man, Anthony, you don't know what an impact you made with Bengal fans across the world as well. I mean, when I get Jamie, who produces our show in Canada, I mean, for years, that's all he does when he walks out of the Bengal games. He's immediately tuning into you, Anthony, to get your take on the Bengal game. So it's important what you guys do, and we appreciate everything you do, Anthony.
I appreciate it. And, you guys are killing it like always, Jim. And, the more we can do this, cross integration and synergy between what we're both doing, I think that'd be a good thing. And hopefully we can get this drive-in tailgate filled up for you, be it through our show or your own promotion. So check that out, everybody. And thanks for coming on, Jim. Appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy guy, but, I wanted to promote what you're doing.
We appreciate you. Thanks for everything, buddy.
Take it easy. Thank everybody for tuning in. And we will see you Wednesday. If not then maybe Friday for listener questions live. Thanks, Jim. We'll see you next time.
Good day, guys.